So welcome to the next chapter of your book, students, that is Characteristics of Business Services. And in this chapter, you are supposed to learn these important points. The first one being characteristics of the business services in terms of 5 I's. Then we have the basic differences between goods and services on the same I's that we will discuss here. Then we have the types of services, BSP, then banking services, removing the hindrance of finance. We have insurance services that removes the hindrance of, we can say, risk, and then communication services, removing the hindrance of information, transportation services, removing the hindrance of place, and warehousing services finally, that helps in the removal of hindrance of time. And all these topics will be covered in this chapter. So one by one, through use of mnemonics and acronyms, we are going to memorize these topics directly from the NCERT. So let's begin, students. The first one being characteristics of business services. This is a very, very important part of the chapter, and the chapter begins with this 5 I's. You can remember it. There are 5 letters from starting from the letter I. There are 5 words. So first is intangibility feature, where intangible means that you cannot touch these services. You can only experience and feel the services that are provided. So this is the basic concept. Inconsistency means it differs from one person to the other. The same doctor may prescribe different medicine for the same symptoms. Okay. So there can be the different types of services by different professionals. We cannot say that there has to be some consistency, because unlike the products produced by the business persons, these services are totally dependent on one's experience and one's knowledge and application of the skills. So, and it depends from person to person who is the service availer. So it's totally inconsistent. Next is inseparability, which says that the service provider and the service taker, they cannot be separated. They have to be in continuous touch with each other. The services once formulated, once given, they have to be consumed simultaneously in order to get the benefit. We cannot postpone its consumption, unlike that in case of products. Then we have inventory-less system, because it cannot be stored. You can well understand this, like maybe the seats in the flight. If you have booked the flight, and you can see that in off seasons many seats are going vacant, just because of that the fares may drop in, and when there are high demands, the prices fare go up. So this is the very basic reason, because inventories cannot be preserved for later use, so it has to be used then and there. And involvement is much necessary, students. Like this, you can understand that service provider, the service taker also must be fully involved and fully engrossed with the service of the service taker, the giver, so that they can utilize the service properly. Without, like, if the doctor has prescribed a medicine and you are not taking it, then definitely the effect will not be observed. So involvement of the customer, consumer, client must be there in order to avail the service. Now let us understand these differences from NCERT. First, let us see in detail what NCERT has to say on these 5 I's. And when we say intangibility, it says that it cannot be touched, it can only be experienced. So that's why the services are important, that service provider that continuously work on creating a desired services, so that the customer's experience is at its best. Customer undergoes a favorable experience. This is must. Then we have inconsistency. Inconsistency simply means, students, that the performance is completely different from one person to the other. We cannot claim the same kind of services even from the same person. The same person can also not provide the same service twice. So there has to be some difference. There's no tangible product here, so that is why it is exclusive each time. Means different customers, their different demands and different expectations, and thereby the providers also have an opportunity to alter their offers each time they meet new customers. So this is well said in the NCERT. Next point we have that of inseparability. Here it is said in inseparable that the services cannot be separated. They have to be simultaneous production and consumption. As soon as it is produced, it also has to be consumed by the customer. They are inseparable. We cannot preserve it for later. Like even in case of ATMs, when we go to the rather than meeting the banking clerk, we are directly interacting with the machine. But for interaction with the machine as well, the customer's interaction is must. Without interaction of the customer with the process, the same thing cannot be processed. So it has to be inseparability. There is no separation between the production and consumption, or maybe for later use. Kept for later use concept is not applicable in case of service industry. Then inventory less, as we have already talked about, this is a very important feature, because due to this only we see the prices change of the services. No tangible component cannot be stored for future use. It is perishable. If not taken, then it goes waste. So that is why we can say demand and supply needs to be managed, and they cannot be performed earlier to be consumed or at a later date. Even before it can also not be consumed, and later also it cannot be consumed. If you have a railway ticket or an air ticket for a particular date and particular time, you have to be there at that particular date and time in order to avail the service. Even before, one day before also you cannot claim it, and one day later also you cannot claim it. So it is as simple to understand that it is completely inventory less. And the fifth I, student, is the involvement, where we are talking about involvement of both the participants in the exchange, like the service provider with that of the customer. The participation of customer is also important. So the customer has to get the opportunity to get the services modified according to their own requirements. If the consumer wants, it can get the services according to his or her requirement. Now in the next segment, students, the NCERT has given a clear-cut distinction between goods and services on these 5 I's only. So let us understand this as well. Now if we see here, there are basic differences between services and goods. So first of all, nature, it is an activity or process. Service is an activity, it's a process. However, the goods are just the physical objects which are to be presented to the consumers. Here type is heterogeneous. With heterogeneous we mean that it is different for different users. Hetero, the word hetero means different, and this is homogeneous. With homogeneous we means similarity. There has to be a similarity between different kinds of goods. The same pen, like if we talk about the cello pen, it is same everywhere. Cello Technotip pen, it has same design, same function, same price, everything similar with the other Cello Technotip pen. But in case of services, it is not possible. As I told you, even one same doctor cannot prescribe the same medicines to different persons, or maybe to the same person when it has the different symptoms. So the services change. Now intangibility feature, this says that it cannot be touched but can only be experienced, like a doctor's treatment can be experienced. Here the products can be touched, the goods can be touched, like the medicine you can actually touch it and consume it. So inconsistency, different customers have different demands, and thereby the services also get modified. And here the different customers, though they have this different types of goods demands, but same goods will have standardized demand only, and the same good will be taken every time the customer buys it. Inseparability feature, this also we have discussed. There has to be simultaneous production and consumption in case of services. Like if you have taken ice cream from a restaurant, you have to eat it as well then and there. You cannot preserve it for later. Then here separation of production and consumption can be there, because if we have purchased an ice cream from the store, then we can keep it later for giving it to another friend. But if you are availing the service at the restaurant, you have to consume it there and there. So this is the minute difference between goods and services. The last point being inventory. Here it cannot be kept, because we have to use the experience then and there at the same time. And here it can be kept in stock for future use, because that same product can be passed on to the next user, or maybe some other user at different point of time once it has been purchased. So here the concept of inventory is. Another important point, student, is also regarding the involvement, as we have discussed. Here the participation of customer is must in case we are availing a service, because if you go in a restaurant also, you have to do a fast self-service system is there. You have to take your own food using the coupon code or whenever your order arrives. But here in case of goods, there is no necessity of the involvement of the particular customer, because the same, like if we are buying a pen, we can buy it and someone else can buy it on our behalf, and later it can transfer, the person can transfer the pen to some other person who is actually needing the pen. So the person needing the pen need not be present to buy it as well. So this is the basic difference. Here involvement of the final consumer is not necessary, but in case of service, whosoever wants the service, they have to be personally involved in order to avail it. So I hope the differences are very clear on the 5 I's as we have discussed: intangibility, inconsistency, inseparability, inventory less thing, we can call services to be inventory less, and finally the involvement of the consumers. Another important aspect as far as services are concerned, students, are nothing but the types of services which we will see. The services can be categorized as BSP. You can remember it as BSP, Bharatiya Samta Party, या आप ऐसे ही याद रखें. B for business services, or everything related to business as we have discussed just now. Here only it comes warehousing, and whatever services we are going to learn under this chapter, they are part of business services only. Communication services, then we discussed about insurance services, then there are banking services. So all these business services, they aim at removing a particular hindrance of trade, like warehousing can remove the hindrance of time, communication the hindrance of information, insurance the hindrance of risk, banking the hindrance of money or capital. So all these things that are related to business and which actually acts as aids to trade, they are categorized under business services. Then we have social services, students, which are purely done with the motive of social welfare, to maybe to provide hospitalization services to the oldies, or we can say the orphanages facilities to the orphans, or there can be some donation camps where we are providing services. So these are all of social nature, where one aims without any profit making. One's aim is to provide social services. The best example here in this sector can be that of NGOs, the non-governmental organizations that are working in different charitable institutions, like hospitals, colleges, schools, in order to provide different facilities to different sections of the society. The last services kind being personal services, students, where we go for availing the particular services for a particular person, like a person going to parlors for getting the haircut, or maybe somebody going to the spa center for getting a massage. So all these kinds of services which are aiming to provide the experience to a particular person, we call it personal services. Now let us see from NCERT what NCERT is saying on all these 3 points. BSP. So here the business services are well defined by the NCERT. It says that anything that business enterprises are conducting different kinds of activities like banking, insurance, transportation, warehousing, communication. As I told you, all these services we are going to study in detail in this chapter itself. Then we have social services, which are purely voluntary in nature, in pursuit of some social goals in order to improve the standard of living for weaker sections of the society. It can be providing education to the children, providing healthcare, hygienic conditions in slum areas, and there can be several other things which are done voluntarily without anybody forcing it on someone, mainly undertaken by the non-governmental organizations and also few government agencies. Then we have personal services, students. Here personal services means that services which are experienced differently by different customers, depending upon the nature of the service, like we can say the tourism services, recreational facilities, the restaurant services, parlor services, massage center services. So all this comes under personal services. So this, remember just types of services as B, S and